I'm about to share a verse which reveals exactly when human life begins. Recently, a Louisiana senator asked Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson this simple question: when does life begin? Her response is, I don't know. And he presses back just a bit and he says to her, well, do you have a belief? And her response is, I have personal, religious, and otherwise beliefs that have nothing to do with the law in terms of when life begins. I have a religious view that I set aside when I'm ruling on cases. And so what she's saying here is, I have particular religious ideas that I believe about the beginning of life, but I don't want to share those now, so I'm going to say I don't know. And I'm going to push those to the side and basically say I use a different set of ideas that she is suggesting are basically neutral to then do her work as a judge. But are those different ideas actually neutral? The answer is no. No ideas are neutral. They all assume certain things about reality. They assume things about humanity and God. All ideas have a foundation that is religious by definition. So what she's actually doing is assuming a new set of religious ideas from the ones she professes earlier to do her day-to-day job as a judge. And so her hope or claim that she's being neutral with these ideas, it's actually impossible. And before we point the finger too much at her and say, look at you, you're being a hypocrite, you profess one thing but then operating in a different way, we as Christians can do that very easily. In fact, we do it probably every day. It's called sin, right? We have God's law and we're supposed to obey God's law, and when we fall short of what He's commanded us to do, well, we're acting in opposition by different ideas than what His law actually says. Therefore, we're being hypocritical, and we, like Judge Brown, are living sort of a schizophrenic life, professing one thing, living another way. But the point is, as Christians, we realize that, and when we do realize that, we repent of it because it's wrong, it's broken, we confess it as sin, and then we turn to God and say, God, help us to live in line with your word by the power of your Spirit for your glory. And you see what's happening here is that actually Judge Brown is suggesting this schizophrenia is a good thing, that she's separating the two, that religious views here, neutrality here, this is a good thing, but no, it's not good. These are still religious views and they're hypocritical by definition. Second thing I would want to say to her and others who would make a similar argument is this: if you don't know when life begins, well, then we've got some really good news. We know someone who definitively knows when life begins, and that is God. God the Creator, God who's omniscient, the one who knows everything. He knows when life begins. It's His creation. He knows authoritatively, and we can go to His word, the Bible, to learn when life begins. And of course, the value of that life is, well, each human being is made in God's image, therefore has equal, indelible, inherent, infinite value because of that fact. Now, when does that life begin? Well, we go to His word. A couple examples for now. Psalm 139. We hear from the psalmist talking to God, for you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. And you notice those personal pronouns there. God, you formed me, you made me, and you did this in my mother's womb. God is engaging a person, not a thing or an it or a blob. And then Jeremiah 1:5, God says this to Jeremiah, that before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before I formed you, I knew you. Each person is known in the mind of God from eternity past. Dear friend, life begins at fertilization. The Bible could not be more clear. You see, oftentimes people claim that abortion is a complicated issue. It's actually not. Now, the circumstances around an abortion can be horrendous and complicated, but the issue itself is not, because if we know when life begins, then we can answer the questions very easily. And since we know authoritatively from God and His Word, life begins at fertilization, answering the questions and issues around abortion are not that hard if we'll start with His Word. So next time someone says to you, when does life begin? You don't have to say, like she said here, I don't know. You can say with love, but with boldness. No, we do know when life begins because God tells us in His Word. Let me show you. If you want more on this, you can check out this video right here. And guys, until next time, take care.